Hello and welcome to Fire in the Valley. Today we have myself, your host, Mighty Pete Launton, and we have the beautiful Claire Dore. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to you.
Hi, Pete. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Listen, always a pleasure, always a pleasure. I've had the joy of following you on social media, and I think you've got a spectacular energy, I'm going to say. You put out a great vibe, great energy, great following. So, credit to you, first of all, I suppose is the best thing to say.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, acknowledging and appreciating your compliments. And yeah, it's been a fabulous journey being me.
Wow. Well, that's it. Everyone else is taken, so you might as well take yourself. So, that's what it's all about, right?
Yes, 100%.
So tell me, first of all, what does fire in the belly mean to you, Claire?
Fire in the belly is like feeling alive, feeling fully alive. And I very much lead my life by my intuition. So which you could translate as fire in your belly. And I'm all about energy and really just following the flow of the energy, like whatever is feeling like super exciting to me, um, I'll follow that. So it really speaks to me, fire in the belly, because I think um, I bring a lot of fire to things. I'm quite provocative in how I show up and very much kind of speak from what my intuition delivers. And yeah, that can be edgy, that can be provocative, and very awakening.
What does provocative mean to you?
Um, well, I see it as activating people.
Okay.
Maybe, sharing something that maybe others might not share, right? So almost like, yeah, activating. That's how I'd like to describe it. It's like activates people. And I know that my energy is big. I have a big energy, and I think people really feel that when I do place those words, whether that's speaking on TikTok live or on a podcast or on a post, right? Coming through my writing. Like that is felt. And that's what I know, that like that's a truth for me, but also I recognize that that's what's reflected. It's like people will say to me, "Ooh, ooh, that got me."
Hmm. Do you like, I mean, is it that thing of, do you think we need to be provocative to get through our, people's truths or get through to people because they're maybe not listening or they maybe haven't stretched out to be themselves?
I think it's about what feels aligned for you. I don't
Hmm.
think there is a one way. That is my way, and I know that that feels fully aligned and true for me. But for someone else, that being provocative could be completely unaligned for them. And I think it's about showing up authentically and unapologetically. And that is definitely my way. I'm pretty bold in most things that I do. And I was talking on a TikTok live earlier, funnily enough, about the Matrix and how I those rules don't apply to me. That's how I see it. And I get into some very, very interesting conversations with my children around it. And I say, you do realize you have a very non-conforming mum, right? And I haven't been that way all the time, right? So it's different for them. But I yeah, it's like I don't play by what we're told, right?
Hmm. What is it that, what is it a value set? Is it approach? What is it that actually helps you to achieve that?
Achieve what?
Do you achieve the ability to get over yourself or to be able to understand or listen to your own intuition, your ability to just be you, right? Because we're all so busy, generally, we're conscious about the outside world, we're conscious about what people might think or conforming mother or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand the question. So for me, it's about expanding. It's about expansion.
Hmm.
So energetically expanding into all of who I am. And in doing so, and actually, I'll speak about something that has been a big catalyst to this, which was letting go of the lens of healing. And
Yeah.
that has shifted everything. So I very much coach and mentor through the lens of expansion versus healing.
Hmm.
And that the healing thing or perspective, that was, a big part of my own evolution, but also how I was previously coaching. And it's like I had to have that experience. Like I feel we create everything in our lives. That's my kind of perspective is we create everything. Whether we like it or not is another thing, right? But I believe we create everything. And I know I created that experience to know how it feels to then um coach and live my life through the eyes and lens of expansion. It's very different because it's like when you are leaning into expansion and really kind of expanding your own energy and being state, everything that's out of alignment just literally naturally just comes up through, you know, following the fun things that you're doing in life. It's like it's not a ritual. You don't need to look for it. When we're in the energy of healing, it can feel like we're looking for something wrong. We're looking for something to fix. We're looking for a problem.
Hmm. So he is healing, do you think, is healing almost focused on the past as opposed to expansion in the future, or have I picked that up wrong?
Expansion is about the now. Expansion is about the now and knowing that we are whole and one, whereas healing can tend to be always looking for the thing that's wrong. I say that quote in quote marks, right? Because there's nothing wrong with us. And I think it's just about awareness, right? It's essentially about awareness. And I recognize that the more I get connected to myself, um, the more I get to show up in this way, right? Because I'm being authentic. And when you're being truly authentic, you are not scared about being provocative or bold and sharing your opinion because you are not attached to whether someone likes you or not,
Hmm.
or fearing that you're going to upset someone. Yeah, it feels very different.
Has that always been the case for you?
No, not at all. I was very much, I want to say, a conformist. Yeah, I was for sure. That was not my truth, and it's not any of our truth. I don't believe. Like we are all meant to follow our own divine path, right? And that to really uncover that is about being really truly connected to ourselves. But yeah, I think back to like when I was a teenager and in my 20s, and I'd say that I was being myself fully, like really fully, with less awareness than now, right? And yeah, so I made some interesting choices, but I was always following the fun. And then I got married and was in that relationship for 21 years. And yeah, definitely was um, being who I thought I was supposed to be, right? Rather than being myself fully. And it's only from leaving that do I kind of really recognize that. So I left that relationship 3.5 years ago because I recognized I was not myself, was not fully happy. And I, yeah, had essentially, shrunk myself, molded myself in that relationship and put myself on mute.
And do you feel that you're almost back to that version of you, the true version of you, the version you were when you were a child and a teenager?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And but a more evolved version, right?
Hmm.
With a lot of self-awareness and yeah, I lead a very conscious life and I make choices based on what feels right for me and really following my intuition, which quite often doesn't make sense, right? Does not make sense at all. And it can, yeah, it can be challenging for some people around me, and that's okay, right? That's fine. Um, and I always say to my children, if something feels right for you, like follow that, follow that.
Where do you think people get lost? Where do people go? And as you say, it's like you are the truest version of you. You then go off on this journey, and is it society? Is it ego? Is it the conscious mind, or is it people pleasing? What is it that we do, and then until we get back to who we are?
Um, I think there's many factors that play a role, and I think everyone is going to know what that is for themselves. And I think, yeah, it is almost like I think people get lost in the busyness of life and don't give themselves enough space to even tune into who they really are and connect with themselves. And I think, you know, you mentioned there like ego and subconscious mind. And I think, that for me, like I see all of that as one. Like it's just all of us. Because when we see like a separation, it's almost like we can blame it on something that's invisible to us. And that's definitely been my journey, stepping out of this perspective of healing is actually just seeing everything as a whole and as one and not separate. um and things like menopause, this has just come into my mind, like menopause, for example. That is when people adopt that label, it's like they're blaming something for how they feel. And actually, it's just a word. It's just all made up. It's just a word that someone's put on the phase of life, right? Because actually, menopause, from my perspective and my experience, is the most awakening time ever.
Why?
Um, you really step into your power, I feel. You really step into your power. And I think when you start to strip back that actually what society says it's all about doesn't apply to me, you have your own experience. And that's for everything in life, right? It doesn't have to be menopause, but I believe menopause, um, and I say that loosely because it is just a word that has just been slapped on a phase. And when people start to say, oh, women say I'm perimenopausal, I see that they then start to embody those symptoms.
Can it be useful? Can it be like a crutch for people? Is almost sort of saying, well, I'm going through this, therefore it gives me permission to be different? Or is it
I think it can
something?
be used as an excuse,
Yeah,
personally.
sure.
I think it is used as an excuse. And I hear it a lot in women's groups where they'll go, oh, I can't stop crying. Oh, it's my hormones. I don't believe that. I think actually it is about really uncovering who you are. And I think what I recognize is women who really know who they are tend to have a very effortless phase. And I think it's all connected to how much you've processed all your emotional stuff, essentially, and, like cleared that, you know, crap, as it were.
Hmm. So that's, as you say, it's the hormones, it's all that. I mean, what is that? Do you think is it unprocessed emotion? Is it
Yeah.
trapped energy?
Yeah. Well, that's the same. Trapped energy is unprocessed emotion, right? Same. Energy that is trapped in the body is essentially emotion that needs to be moved and processed. And when we are carrying that, like we don't fully know who we are.
Hmm.
And that will present itself in, you know, the nervous system being like very kind of unregulated and feeling those symptoms of anxiety. I can't tell you how many women I've heard say that they, are getting medication from doctors because of anxiety in this phase of life.
Well, I mean, that's as you say, there's medication, and if it's not medication, it could be at the bottom of a bottle. If it's not in a bottle, it could be anything from sex to any other dopamine kick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just being really conscious to go, why am I making this choice? Like, what's deeper underneath? What is the disempowering story that I'm actually um, fueling right now?
Hmm.
And it's like unhooking that is the piece so that you can really get back to your truth. That's what I really feel.
And that's quite something, isn't it? I mean, to be whether you're conscious or not, actually continuing on a potentially a destructive path because it actually resonates with your body or resonates with the belief in some shape or form. I'm not saying it's good for you, but it might be that actually, it's self-sabotaging in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's funny how we would do that, right? And as I don't know, is it the human condition? Is it the age we're at? Is it the ego? What is it, right? I don't know.
I think people get a satisfaction from it. I said on a post once that it's to do with getting a kink from it. If you look at like when you are in an energy of thinking you need healing, for example, um, you'll get fuel, and you'll enjoy the emotional high from being in victim, the drama, right? You'll get a kick from it, and that's why you keep recreating it.
Yeah.
That's what I see. And that was my experience. Like I had to, I created a very interesting situation, a car crash, to help me to see how clearly I was creating this drama and allowing the drama to just like really, really impact me.
It's like doing nothing is a choice, right? And it's all whether we're doing it consciously or not. Whether it's self-sabotage, whether, as you say, we unintentionally manifest a challenging situation, whatever, right? Um, which sounds so counterintuitive. It's like, why would I possibly do that? Why would I jeopardize myself? But we do it all the time, subconsciously, right?
Absolutely. I had a client today share with me. Um, so when I was coaching her this week, she was in the energy of worry. And so I did some teaching around worry and how, worry is essentially creating what we don't want. It's a negative energy, right? And it's basically fast forwarding and taking ourselves out of the present moment into the future. So when you're worrying, it's like it's the biggest waste of energy because you're worried about something that's actually not even happened, right? Like when you think about it like that, it's like it's not even happened. So why would you give your energy to it? Why are you choosing to give your energy to it? So anyway, we were doing some processes around that, and then literally the next morning, she created exactly what she didn't want, right? But because we'd done some work through that, she was like, my God, I can see what I did here. Because she's got that awareness, instead of just allowing herself to, you know, be in the kind of like, I don't want to say illness, it wasn't an illness, but essentially pain in her body that she created, she thought, oh my God, I've literally created this myself. And that's empowerment, right? Taking radical responsibility for even the stuff you didn't actually want. And I was like, that is amazing. Look how, what an incredible creator you are. So if we just apply our energy to what we do really want, like creation can fast is fast, right? Because it's already done.
I'm still stuck on the last bit. It's that
Yeah, go back.
ability. It's the ability, and you're right. I mean, it is that it's somewhere between self-sabotage but we don't even consciously recognize it as that because everyone's sort of saying, you're asking them, it's like, what am I capable of? And it's like, well, I'm capable of anything, right? But then you say, well, why don't you just bloody well do it? And they're like, I don't know.
Fear. They let fear just completely control them,
Hmm.
right? They just allow fear because, you know,
Well, how does
it's
fear serve then? Let me ask you that. How does fear serve us? Because I know it's not useful, but it's a part of us
well,
is served, or do we just like the fact of knowing, having it as a knowing response that I'm afraid, therefore I'll just put it in this bag, therefore that's why I won't proceed forward.
essentially fear is an energy. It's showing you that you're alive, right?
Hmm.
And when you observe fear in that with that perspective, you actually start to you can use that to your advantage, right? It's like, oh, this feels a little bit scary, or oh, that's for me then, right? I sing and I go to open mic nights, right? Okay, so let me just like put some context on that. I went to my third one on Monday, okay, and so
Freeze a
it's a
habit. That's
new
okay.
it's a new thing for me,
Hmm.
okay. So I didn't think I was going on Monday because I had a podcast interview booked. So I was like, ah, damn, can't go because I got a podcast. Oh, sorry guys, I won't be here this week. Whew, for you, that's a great excuse for me not to go. What happened? The podcast got cancelled. So I was like, oh, like there, my excuse is gone, right? But so then I was like, right, now I'm sat in the fear, right? Now I'm sat in the fear. So I've got a choice. Do I allow the fear to dictate this situation and not go? Or do I allow myself to just ride the fear and go, what is the worst that's going to happen? Like I completely mess it up. And so what? I'm still alive, right? So of course I went. Of course I went. And I went and stood on the stage and I played with the guitarist who that's the second time he's ever played alongside me. And something I've learned about guitarists or musicians, right? And this is my singing teacher had shared this with me, is they like to play longer than when the song goes on. So I finished the song. I still had the mic in my hand and he was carrying on playing. And I was just like doing these eyes at him, just like, what the hell are you doing kind of thing. And then I was like, all right, I just carry on singing. Right. So I had this like mass laughter in the middle, carried on singing. And then, he's like, last chorus. And it just styled it out. And it's like, that was entertaining. Right. I had fun. It was like, I think so often we have this thing, oh my God, we need to get it perfect. Like when we can just let go of that and go, how about I just show up as me? How about I just show up as me, be willing to fuck it up and have fun, right? That's always my intention is have fun, be willing to fuck it up. And if it does, it actually doesn't matter. Um, and then it just, it's like, it's just a laugh
It's
and
just
you
like
expand as a result.
it's taking yourself too seriously, isn't it? Or allowing yourself to, as you say, fuck it up and fall on your face, right?
And it interrupts people living because fear is just aliveness in the body. It's saying you are alive. Like, and yes, if there's something we haven't done before, so I'd never, like performing this song for the first time, it's like, oh, I haven't done that before. Of course, fear is going to come up, right? And it's like, yeah, let's play with that. This is an energy that I can play with and use to my advantage. And Yeah, I haven't jumped out of a plane, but jumping out of an aeroplane, right? That's if you haven't done that before, that's going to bring in energy.
So it's almost an induction. Well, I suppose you're starting off, you're getting over a energy, something that's physically holding you back, like a handbrake on a car or something that's fear-based, anxiety-based, whatever, right? Then you're getting to the stage of embracement and sort of saying, well, listen, it is, let's just embrace it until we then go looking for energy. As you say, we're going to say, not only am I not fearful, I'm also going to jump out of a plane, right? So we almost have three phases of energy.
Yeah, and I think, something I've really learned is actually just voicing the feeling can can clear it. Like the last month when I went to open mic, I walked in there and literally there were so many people that I knew, and I was just like, like you've just ruined my performance here, right? That was what was going on in my head because I was scared. I was all this fear, judgment. Who was judging? I was judging myself, right?
Hmm.
I was judging myself. And I said, my friend said to me, well, we can just go if you want. And I went, no, no, we're not leaving. I'm just going to tell you what's coming up. I'm really feeling all this fear right now in my body, right? And it's like, I just need to tell you all about it to just move it on. And then it was like, okay, that's out of the way. Now I can focus on stepping on the stage with an intention. And yeah, it's just being really conscious and yeah, there are ways we can move that through us.
That's really interesting. So a lot of people won't pick up on that, and I think it's really important to highlight that. Is just you're not trying to get rid of the fear, you're not trying to handle it or do anything else. It is purely acknowledgement.
Acknowledging it, acknowledging it, and allowing yourself to sit with it and be with it,
Mm.
and then you can move it, right? If we push the fear down, then we are, you know, suppressing it in our bodies, right? And we want to move it, right? We want to move it. So that's how I play with it anyway.
I love it. There was a saying I heard someone saying, it's like, what if it's not fear? What if it's trapped excitement?
Yes, I love that. I
And
love that.
it's just enough to sort of go,
Uh-huh.
maybe it is. What's the
Yeah,
difference?
yeah,
It's like,
exactly. It's a word, isn't it? That's
hmm
just been put on this feeling state.
hmm
But actually, if we strip those words back and we just go, oh, I'm feeling, it's just a feeling in my body and it's energy, it's energy.
Do you find, yeah, and you come across as very kinesthetic, very feeling, very sensual, very, it's all about the senses and the body. Is that a powerful thing for you that actually you've got to almost intuitively sense the right thing?
Um, do you know when yeah, I mean, I'm very in touch with myself. And I I feel a lot that moves through me all the time. And when my clients speak truth to me, like I feel that on a visceral level. Um, when I speak, like I can feel that. It's like I get a feedback of energy when every time I talk and speak. It's like this yeah, it's like a feedback loop for myself. So I kind of expand myself every time I speak, I notice. But for me, my intuition is just it's hard to describe and it's different for everyone, but it's just like this knowing. It's just
Mm.
like a knowing. And it comes to me in a different way. Like I'm constantly being fed my intuition. But what I notice is like the more I expand, and this is like happening on a moment by moment basis, like, something I've said like yesterday, I can have a completely different opinion about today, right? That's how fast like expansion happens. And I think it was yesterday or the day before. I was on a walk. When I walk, I get a lot of clarity. Like
Hmm.
I can just really hear my intuition. Washing up as well. Never complain about the washing up. Intuition's on fire. So yeah, I had a couple of thoughts, like thoughts I'd never have ever like even come into my awareness before, right? And I think this is it. The more we expand, we get to really uncover what our truth and our truest desires are, and just acknowledging those. And when I hear those, it's like, yeah, I just hear them in a different, slightly different way. It's like a message that drops in, and it's just like this knowing for me. And um, the speed they can be created is like super fast, I find.
Do you find it most useful then, whether it's with clients or in that? I mean, do you try and capture that, or do you just let them keep flowing, or how do you actually then sort of, well, it's implement or bring it into physical reality as such?
I'll quite often express it in some way. Yeah. And whether that is acknowledging it in my journal, or I might voice it in my coaching group.
And I think for a lot of people, like, so your free state, your flowing state, is that when you're speaking? Is that when you're out on your own in nature? Is there certain areas where you tend to be more creative, more flow state?
I'm kind of in that state all the time, to be fair, because I have created that for myself.
Hmm.
Um, but I do notice, so like if I get stuck in thinking, right, the most dangerous thing we can ever do is think. So if I notice that I get stuck in thinking, then I'll just take myself on a walk, or go and dance, put some music on, sing. Um, yeah, because yeah, it's just like if I'm trying to, maybe I'm desiring some clarity on something, like I'm never going to get it from thinking. So I'll notice that really quickly, and then I'll just do something that feels fun, that I'm feeling drawn to do. And quite often that's like, yeah, like just taking myself outside. Um, I really like walking in the dark, I've noticed.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like maybe it's like the world is like just all closed off, and I like to be in my bubble. Like I've quite often got my AirPods in, and sometimes it's not playing music because I just like to be in my own kind of energetic bubble and just explore, like, yeah, just feel what's coming up for me.
See, I notice for some, I mean, that's a real thing. That sort of sensory deprivation tends to heighten our other senses.
Yeah.
It's and for some it can be fearful or whatever, but actually by reducing input actually increases output. So, if we're not taking as much in, then it allows us actually to process more, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I wear an eye mask at night, and when I wake up in the morning, I like to just kind of like just meander in and out of like a state of consciousness, and I will leave my eye mask on because yeah, it's like I I'm not allowing my head to try and run the show, like any thinking. It's like, yeah, don't need to think. Like let's just feel what's coming up. And I've got all sorts of really interesting like thoughts that have just like dropped in from nowhere, and like crazy kind of like images, and like a dream state.
I want to take it back a bit because and again, I don't know that everyone will necessarily pick up. It's that thing you're saying about as soon as I know that I'm thinking, it's almost where you need to break state. You need to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because thinking, just give us a definition or give us why that is so ineffective for you thinking.
It's not the way. It's logic. I don't I very much lead with my intuition. So when I notice, so let's say I'm desiring clarity on something. I can't even think of an example right now that has happened this week. And and I notice that I'm trying to think and work out. I know, work out the how, right? That's the most dangerous thing we can do. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, that the how is none of our business, right? So let's just say I've tapped into a desire that feels really true to me, and I notice I'll go into, oh, well, how is that gonna play out? Like, how is that gonna be created? And it's like, just reminding myself that how is none of my business. And faith is all about the acronym for allowing in the how. That is faith. And so yeah, it's just noticing that I'm getting, trying to work things out, um, or plan, right? I don't do that. I just don't do that. So I'll just, yeah, notice and move. Like I'll move. Movement is so good at shifting energy, but also getting us out of any kind of thinking.
Mm, I love that. It's they talk about it, I think, in Think and Grow Rich and several other books, and when people sort of say, listen, if someone knows something, and not an inner knowing, not an intuitive knowing, but an outer knowing, an egoic knowing, that's the ego's voice. When we go to thinking, that's sort of conscious thought. As you say, it's logical,
Yep.
it's how the outside world performs. When we go to subconscious or to, yeah, the subconscious, then when we start talking about feelings, then we start to get past, we bypass the conscious mind. And then we talk about senses, we're into our soul, our super
Yeah.
subconscious, if you like, and it's how often do we hear that? It's like, I know this and I think that. And it's like, please don't. Please just tell me what you feel and what you sense, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I heard a quote the other day actually. I can't even remember who it was by, but it was like, um, remove all everything that you know, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just like really speaking to that. And it's like that's when we allow ourselves to really access the beautiful wisdom within, when we strip away all of that intelligence and just allow ourselves to drop into, yeah, that knowing. And one of my first coaches, I remember he used to say to me, to know and not to be is not to know. Because like you can read a book, but if you don't apply anything from that book, it's like a waste of energy, total waste of energy. And I always say to my clients, like, you might pick up a book and you just take one thing from it, right? And like actually apply it to your life. That will change you. But if you read it and you just regurgitate it without actually allowing yourself to feel it and apply it, that's, yeah, pointless.
Mm. Shelf development, I think they call it, don't they?
Self development.
Like, yeah, I've got the books, it's got all that. It's like, how's that going for you? Still on the
Yeah,
shelf?
exactly. I I moved house in February and I don't know how many books I got rid of. Like loads, loads. I just kept hold of my, like my favorites. And I'm someone who will pick up a book and just go, right, okay, show me which page I need. Right. Just show me which page I need. Open the page. Oh, there it is. That's what I needed to hear today. I don't necessarily read a book from front to back. I'm very unique like that.
Give us an idea. What's on your bookshelf? What would be a go-to book or what sort of impacts you?
Well, the one that I'm reading right now is by Florence. Gosh, I can't remember her whole surname. It's Florence Shin, Scoville Shin. Florence Scovel Shinn. Do you know it?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
Game of Life
Yeah.
and How to
Beautiful.
Play It.
Beautiful
Oh,
book.
I love that you know that. And well, I've got the whole complete works of hers actually. So that is my book right now. And Access Super Consciousness. Those are the two books that I am, kind of really um I guess working through and embodying. Yeah,
Well, what is your learning style? Are you an immersive learner? Do you read? Do you need to be in a group workshop? What's your style?
all. I recognize um I like listening to an audiobook. However, so when it comes to books, this is, however, I also recognize I'm a highlighter kind of woman. So I like the paper form too. So I actually like to enjoy a book, and really that supports me in truly embodying it by having both. So having it on audio and having it, to then go back to in the actual physical book and highlight those pieces. And yeah, it's interesting. Like when someone speaks something to me, I find sometimes I need to see that written.
That's so interesting. For some people it's sacrilegious to this is my version of Think and Grow Rich, and it looks like it's been attacked by multiple highlighters and it's really scruffy. I know some people say you should never write on books. This book has been written on, folded, dog-eared,
Love it.
scrapped, right? But it's like that's the thing, right? It's got to be immersive. You got, as you say, you got to
Yeah.
either write it out or do it or jot down your thoughts or just repeat what's just been said, right?
Yeah. And I find for me, like when I've highlighted it, I'm very curious about the color coding, by the way.
Hmm.
But when I've highlighted it, when I pick that book back up, it's like those highlighted bits will draw me in and I'm like, oh, and because we are constantly expanding, when I then go back and reread something with these fresh eyes, it's like, oh, that's landing in a different way. How curious. And I find this with like films, funnily enough. I was
Hmm.
watching Pretty Woman the other day and I was like, I am seeing things that I had not seen before. And I'm like, this is really curious because I see that when I read books and I hadn't really fully allowed myself to, or I just hadn't seen it, right? I just hadn't seen it. And I know that we see different things when we watch a film we back, but I'm seeing it, I don't know, with just complete, it feels like I'm seeing it with new eyes. It's wild. It's hard to describe.
I get that. Think and Grow Rich, I think I've probably covered it 8 or 9 times now. This time it's like someone has just cut my head in half and is pouring it straight in. It's so
Yeah, I
bizarre.
love
It's like
that.
this is like a whole new book, and it's like, no, no, I'm starting to get to know the book. Like say 8 or 9 times in, I'm starting to recognize it a lot. But it's just like it's going to go. How did I not pick this up last time, right?
Isn't that incredible? I love that. I love that. So tell me about the color coding. I need to know about this.
So I leave date marks in terms of when I sort of last passed through here. So quite often it's date, so which sort of cycle I was coming through. Because again, I believe, male, female, whatever, I believe we all have cycles. I follow, I believe, like a moon cycle. It's literally you follow the moon and I'll know whether I'm in my, a creative week, whether I'm in a destructive week or an average week, right? But when I read or so I purposely diarize when I'm reading or when I'm working with a client. There's certain weeks I just won't work with the clients because I'm just sitting there going, my energy's not good. But that in terms of color coding, yeah, it's very much repeating, reading back out, and more so as you say, the certain things that really stick out for me. So what I
Mm,
tend to find, I don't know whether it's the creative mind, but actually, if I write it on the page and I color code it, I can actually see it in my mind. So it kind
mm.
of almost triggers like a photographic memory, but it kind of is and it isn't. So I'll know what the page looks like. I'll know almost be able to go to it in my mind. Um, and it's yeah, it just really stands out.
That's clever. Ooh. Love
It's
that.
yeah, I mean I think listen, I think we all have it. It's the same thing we do with a lot of clients in terms of, future visualization. There's the future visualization version of you is and you trigger all five senses and saying, well, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you touch? In your version 5 years from now. And to the point, it's so real that your imagination can't tell whether it's already happened or not. And you're kind of going, yeah, cool. Same with the book. If you've, really sort of can understand who I was with when I was reading this or what was happening, and it blurs the line between reality and imagination. And it's a beautiful way to be, I find.
Hmm. Interesting. I wrote about visualization this morning.
Oh, there you go. What was your take on it? Tell me, speak to me.
Yeah, so I have an interesting perspective. So I've always taught around visualization, but what I am now teaching is not that at all, because visualization can create separation. Um, it tends to be um, taught in mainstream manifestation, and seen as something outside of ourselves. Whereas if we are, really tapped into our conscious state and being in, in this kind of like perspective of expansion and really tuning into what is our truest desire, when we acknowledge our truest desire, it's allowing our imagination that is already part of us to show us the image, because it's already here. So the higher consciousness is all about like creation is already done. So it's not a future thing. It's like it's already here and it's matching that energy to be able to make that visible.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
No, totally, totally. It's
Mm.
so few people are used to thinking of it that way, I do believe. They've never taken the time to actually, as you
Mm-hmm.
say, sort of going, the future best version of you exists and the future worst version of you exists. It's a choice, right?
Mm. But I think when you always think about the future, it's like taking you away from that present, the present
Hmm.
moment, which is the point of creation. Funnily enough, that the meeting I had this morning, someone actually said to me, "There's no coincidence we're having this conversation." She said something about, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, no, she wasn't asking me that. She was saying that question, that question that coaches will ask. And I said, yeah, I'll never ask that question ever again because it takes you away from the present.
Hmm. Okay. I'm challenged by that, and I don't mind admitting that. Um, Only in that some people, I suppose it depends where you're at in your journey too. Some people can't see outside of themselves or can't even observe themselves. And that's self-observation, I think, is certainly, one or two steps into your own journey or the own embracing who you are. So saying it's not, it's me. My body may be stuck at this point in time in this place and whatever, but actually I can view myself from 1,000 feet. I can be outside of myself. I can create. I can do what I want to do, right? So I don't know. Why am I struggling with this? It's curious. I don't know. I think it's our ability to be all these things, and yet I enjoy the likes of the ego and why we hold ourselves back because I do think people are more afraid of success than they are of failure.
So I don't believe there is an ego, because when we think there's an ego, it creates separation because actually it's invisible, right? So we're
Hmm.
blaming something on, old programming or whatever language you want to use. And actually, if we just drop that and go, well, we are whole and complete right now, then there is no ego. There is no ego. There is no separation. It's just us. And when we think about it as an ego, yeah, it's like we're blaming something that we can't even see. It's like, yeah.
Could the ego be the most extreme masculine and the most extreme version of ourselves? I don't know. Let's the concept of ego, but I know we've sort of tagged it up and boxed it in as ego. Is it something that's actually so dark or so powerful that actually we kind of don't want to admit is ours, or don't want to admit that I have that dark thought or have that, you know, intense desire of some shape or form. So we dress it up as, oh, that's an ego. That was, I was had an out of body experience, right?
I think when people think there's an ego, it keeps them in a victim state.
Mm,
It keeps them in a state of victim. And I speak from a place of authenticity, right? I used to teach on that. I used to coach on that, right? That was, kind of like a core foundation of, you know, my own training and my own evolution. But what I recognize is, yeah, it's kind of, it comes back to this whole thing about that healing. Again, healing tends to teach around this, right? That there is an ego, that there is there are separate parts, and it's like actually we're just one, right? It's just part of ourself that is out of alignment that we need to just deal with and unhook.
there's so many, yeah, there's so many thoughts. I'm just gonna chew on that for a sec. Tell me what are values you live by? Soul values, core values, whatever you want to say.
My values, high standard.
What does that
And when I
mean?
talk about that, yeah, great. Thank you for asking. Yeah, because I realized that as I said that, that was quite vague and that could be translated as anything for anyone. Um, I think what I recognize is the more I expand into more of myself, I have like, less needs. I'd say that in inverted commas, right?
Hmm.
And it's like feeling so secure in yourself. It's like you recognize you don't need what you used to need. So things like connections for me. If someone is not in alignment with me, I can't actually be in their company. So that is a core value for me, right? If someone is not energetically aligned, then I cannot even be in conversation or connected. Like, it's just no. It's just no. I won't be in connection with anyone that drains my energy. So that's a core value of mine.
Mm.
Um, I following the fun. That's a core value. Um, Loving myself first.
Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself?
Yeah, unconditionally, unconditionally, like never before. And it's funny because I think back just a couple of years ago. So I left my marriage in July 21, and that was a really big awakening time for me. And like that was when I really felt like I was stepping into being myself fully. And and then like 3.5 years down the line, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting because now I feel a whole new level of that. Like, you know, if I listened to a podcast from 3.5 years ago, like I would talk about how I loved myself for sure. But the way I love myself now is like a totally different level. Can't even describe it. And at a place like I'm single, and it's just like I on this journey, it's like I recognize the times where I have not been fully secure in myself and almost like, you know, allowed my energy to go outside of myself um, to look for what I thought I needed when actually it was all inside me. So I just feel in a really the most secure place I've ever felt. And it's like I'm in this energy where I feel I need so little. Like there's so little that I recognize I need, which is really interesting. It's really interesting. Doesn't mean I don't have desires, right? I do. But it's like, oh, hang on. um, yeah, that was an interesting way to answer your question.
Hmm.
Did that
What
give you a flavor?
what do you desire?
I desire millions of pounds.
Why?
I feel I feel like experiencing that. I feel I can make an even bigger impact with shed loads of money. Um, yeah, that just feels like a really true desire for me. And I think what's interesting is I don't even feel like I need to justify the why. I've realized
Hmm.
it just feels right.
Which is beautiful. I mean, I listen, I tip my hat to you, and you really you vibrate on that energy. You know, that energy of
Yeah.
just being, right?
Mm, yeah.
What's been a turning point for you? A key sort of lesson or turning point or
I guess the biggest life change was leaving my marriage. Yeah. That I recognize on leaving that I'd been happy enough for about 9 years. I was happy enough, right? And that I really feel that relationship came to its completion. That's what I feel like. And yeah, everything happens in divine timing, right? Everything happens in divine timing. I fully believe that. And it was like all these really interesting steps showed up just right before I left. And it was like, yeah, it was like my intuition was on point and I just followed the steps and it was like just came with this energy of courage and authority and then boom, like the words fell out of my mouth and oh wow, yeah, I had no clue what the next step was. And yeah, I'd say that's been the biggest turning point of my life because it's allowed me to really explore fully who I am and create that space and freedom to really explore actually what does Claire want?
hmm.
What does Claire really want? I thought I wanted the fairy tale. I created the fairy tale. I was not fully happy. And so it's been an exciting journey to really, yeah, to really learn about myself and who I was and show up as her fully, unapologetically in all areas. And I feel I'm in that place.
Hmm. What's a guilty pleasure for Claire?
Nothing's guilty. I don't.
Take the guilt out of it. What's the pleasure for you?
uh, Ooh, great question. Yeah, great question. It's interesting. It's really interesting. I feel like the way I've created my life, it's like I live every day in this beautiful kind of energetic state, which is deeply pleasurable. And having my three children with me in one hit is a real joy, a real joy. That doesn't happen very often anymore. And I believe I have them all for dinner tonight, which is pretty exciting. Um, and yeah, so that's a big thing for me. I think the other thing actually, this has just come to me, is traveling. I love exploring. Love, love, love exploring. Um, I meet people
Hmm.
everywhere I go. And really enjoy connecting with people.
Where where's your place of grounding? Time and time again, I hear, people, it's either water, it's either in water, on water, looking at water, or up a mountain. For you,
Yeah,
where's a place of grounding for you?
water. Yeah,
In it, on it,
yeah.
drinking it?
um, yeah, in it. Yeah, in it. I'm a mermaid, for sure. But I'd say I have learned I don't live by the sea. So I do live not far from some lakes, but I have learned to be able to create that wherever I am. But I do love water.
And then, I suppose, what's something that you're great at and something you're terrible at?
uh, that's so funny. Terrible at double unders. I'm a CrossFitter, and and
You're
this
gonna,
morning we were doing double unders. I was like, oh, that's not for me.
what's a double under? I have no idea.
Oh, okay. It's skipping, and the rope goes under your feet twice.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
That's a lot. That sounds like a lot.
yeah. It's a skill because you do the same jump as a single under, but you have to move your wrists a lot faster, right? So it's almost like you know, like rub your tummy, pat your head kind of situation. Um, so anyway, that just came to me because I was doing those this morning, and yeah, getting in all sorts of fun situations. But I think for me, the things that feel fun are singing, dancing, like that. Just, I love music. I love music. Things that don't feel fun for me would be doing admin. So I don't, quite simply, I don't.
How do you manage that then?
No, I do. No, I do. I do my accounts literally. Like I'm very on top of that. Um,
I get it, right? Because
but
I suppose I was diagnosed myself with dyslexia and ADHD about 6 or 7 years ago. Best thing I ever did was to get rid of all the admin. So I have a PA, I have a bookkeeper, virtual assistant, and it's game changing. It's wonderful.
yeah, good. I love that. Um, yeah, do you know what? I've changed my energy around that, to be fair. But if
Mm,
you asked me to go and walk into a job that was admin based, like that would definitely cage me. That would kill my vibe.
mm,
But doing my receipts daily and dealing with emails. Most people know that I actually don't enjoy emails, so they don't communicate with me that way. Um, but I get a lot of joy from engaging on social media. So speaking, that's a big thing for me because I get that energetic feedback from. Whereas I don't get that level of energy from when I'm doing, any kind of admin stuff. It's just like, yeah, I can do it without it draining me, but it's not, yeah, it's not like the most exciting thing.
Hmm. What's the nicest thing someone could say about you?
Oh, sorry, my daughter is calling me.
Sorry.
Ah, I lost you. Um, what's the nicest thing?
Hmm. Someone could say about you.
Um, someone said to me the other day, um, that I'm an enigma. And I was like, oh, I quite like that. I quite like that. It's like this. I think people find me quite mysterious. And I know what that is. It's because I'm truly authentic and they can feel that. And it's almost like they can't pinpoint what it is because I just show up as all of me. Um, people say I have an intoxicating energy. I think that's quite true. I think I said earlier, I take a lot of space. I have a
Hmm.
big energy.
And that's a lovely way to be, right? You just are. You're just yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just being so comfortable in your own skin. It's like you're not judging yourself for anything you say, and you are just being fully in all situations. And yeah, it feels amazing.
Hmm. What are you? I need to be careful how I phrase this now because I was going to say, what do you see in your future? What do you think what do you sense is due to be part of your future? Do you have a sense as to what's possible or what's coming up?
Um, I can speak to what I feel right now.
Hmm.
So, what feels true is being a multi-millionaire. And I think what also feels true is living in New York. Um, whether that's having a home there and a home somewhere else, don't know. Hmm. Um, yeah, I have a big draw to New York right now and Dubai.
And in terms of who you serve, is there a certain type of client that you serve best, or is there, who do you tend to resonate with in particular?
Entrepreneurs, yeah, entrepreneurs. I coach both men and women. It's always more women.
Why?
Uh, they just step in. They step in without a sales call. They just go, "Oh, I'm ready to coach with you, pay the money." I've noticed the men will want the sales call and then sit on it for a while.
Hmm.
Um, that's just a pattern I see. So yeah, I mostly have female clients. I notice it's like they just have a knowing and they just trust that, and then that's it. It's like they step in effortlessly.
Does that tend to be more in the feminine energy, masculine energy?
I'd say if you were going to define by energy, then I'd say that maybe they come into my containers in a more masculine doing
Hmm.
energy. But like being in my container, like they will shift and expand into all of who they are and really embody the being state because that's very much what I teach around is like drop in the doing and being and only acting when your intuition speaks.
Hmm. It'd save a lot of time and pain if they just did that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and energy, which is, almost I mean, it's unlimited. Energy is unlimited. But if they're doing things that are not energetically aligned, then they won't feel like they have a boundless energy like I feel. And, we can, everyone can experience that boundless energy.
Hmm.
And if they're in alignment and only acting on the things that actually really, create a fire in their belly, um, then they're always going to be getting that kind of energetic feedback loop.
Yeah. Always interesting, isn't it? It's just where people are at in their journey on their masculine and their feminine, and just really what's going on and who we attract at different times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think when we can be really conscious about that and go, why am I creating this in my reality? Why am I attracting these same kinds of people? What is this telling me? Is this something for me, or is this a projection that, they're projecting on me? Yeah. And I think it's always being self-aware and um, sitting with what what might be a lesson for yourself.
Hmm. Getting out of your own way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Tell us where can people learn more about you? Where can they get in contact, follow you, hunt you down?
So the best places would be TikTok and Instagram as the Wild Woman CEO and Facebook as Claire Dore. I'm also on YouTube, I think the Wild Woman CEO as well. And I have a podcast called Unfucking Leashed.
Talk to us about that.
Does what it says on the tin. Um, yeah, it kind of started off. I think I started it last August. Intuitive hit, right, and started off very much kind of like talking about dating and relationships. There's a lot of, some of my own creation, and then with guests, a lot around relationships. And then it's just kind of like now it's like just going with creating, really expansive conversations with people. I'd say it's kind of evolved,
Hmm.
and there are no rules. There are no rules, and it is about really, yeah, kind of supporting people in being themselves fully, unleashing themselves, and yeah, embodying all of who they are.
Hmm.
It's fun.
What's something you wish the whole world could hear? Either hear from themselves or hear from society, I suppose.
I think, one of the greatest strengths to really embody is just to trust yourself. Because, yeah, when you can really trust yourself, it's like you don't judge the things that show up, you don't judge the steps, however crazy they might be. It's just like you just trust and step in.
Hmm.
And it is an embodied state, it's a feeling state.
Yeah. Do you think people eventually, because I kind of noticed this through the podcast and that, it's like 20% of the people will actually find out what their fire in their belly is and they will actually go and do something about it. Whereas a lot of people are just, they will make do with okay. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just,
Yeah, and that's okay if that's their choice, right? And that's fine. And I think it's just about, yeah, being really conscious. Does that actually feel really true for me and excite me? But I was having a conversation with someone literally in the street not long ago, and I said to him, "What is it you want?" And it was like this huge light bulb moment of, "What you mean I get to choose?" And I'm like, "Yeah." you can actually choose what you want. And it was like he had never even explored that he might be able to choose how he'd like his life to look. Never even given that any thought. It was like I just, just landed from an alien planet and asked this very simple yet $1 million question. Because if you don't know what you want, you don't know what your aligned actions are.
Hmm.
And you don't know when those intuitive hits come through, right? Because actually, when we really speak about what it is we truly want, like that opens up this huge portal inside us, and our intuition goes to work, right? And will bring the opportunities, resources, people to us. And then it's like letting go of the thoughts and any judgment, just stepping in, just saying yes.
How then do you marry, or how do you, I suppose, connect being present, whatever comes, whatever is, um, but then also connect it with desire or opportunity or a faith or a belief. Because one's purely listening, right? One's if I've gathered this right, so one is taking on board, just being present, whatever is, and good, bad, who knows. But on the other side, then we say we have desire, we have faith, we have ambitions, we have somewhere we want to go, or service, or vision, or mission. How do you marry the two?
For me, it's like just following the energy,
Okay.
just following the energy. So um, I will be super intentional when I'm stepping into anything. I'm super intentional. And, I'm very clear about my desires, right? And they can change. They could change on a daily basis, right? I check in with that. But for me, it's like, so an example of this, I think this is a good example of this and might help to, if I'm understanding your question right, is I could put an offer out in my business on Monday because energetically that feels exciting and where my energy is flowing. On Tuesday, I may not actually feel that anymore. So I won't talk about it. Like it's that simple. So for me, it's always about following the energy and what feels most alive.
Hmm.
Does that answer your question? I'm not really sure.
Well, it does both, because I mean, it sort of means, we take a decision or whatever, but then you reserve the right to monitor the senses that come with it. And it might be going, I thought I wanted
Yeah.
that, and when I started to get a bit of it, or I started to go down that path, actually, I've realized it's not what I wanted at all. So I reserve the right to
Yeah,
pull the bridge back up and continue in the other direction.
that's it. And I think if people just like take that from this, like you can change your mind as many times as you want.
Hmm.
Right? It's your choice. It's your choice. I put a retreat out recently. I don't know, a few months ago now. I was marketing a retreat. And anyway, I haven't marketed it for a few months. And someone messaged me about it literally this week saying, is the retreat still on? I'm really interested. And I was like, hang on a minute, I'm going to come back to you because I just want to feel into it, right? Because I haven't actually been talking about it because my energy wasn't there. And then now I've kind of been feeling into it. I'm like, I actually think it's the same investment, less time, but somewhere different. I haven't, I'm not completely 100% on that. So I haven't gone back to her. I've just said, yeah, it will be something, but I might be changing the destination. And I think giving ourselves permission to just allow
Hmm.
ourselves to change our minds, it's okay.
Hmm.
It's okay. Um, yeah.
That's huge. As you say, permission to be different, permission to change, to might have been good yesterday, today not so much. Tomorrow might be something different again, and that's okay. Right? Let's not make it right or wrong. It just is.
And you don't need to justify it to anyone.
Hmm.
If anyone asks you, why have you changed your mind? It's none of their business. You're allowed to change your mind. Full stop. You don't even need to give a reason, right? That is it. Done.
Done. Beautiful. Beautiful. Claire, I could talk to you for a long time and we could have very deep conversations where I think you could potentially blow my brain up. But for now, we're going to have to call it this place. But remind us again, where can people reach out and follow you? Where's the best place to go?
So on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube is the Wild Woman CEO, and on Facebook is Claire Dore. Thank you.
Wonderful. Is there a final message you'd like to leave with our guests today?
Just be yourself.
Love it. Claire, thank you. Until the next time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Pete.